My name is Micah, but if you ask my grandmother, she would have introduced you to me as Mike. Probably one of two people in the world that get the right to do that. As one of Anita's many grandchildren, 16 to be exact, along with 28 great-grandchildren and the 29th on the way, it's an honor and privilege to share my lovely grandmother's celebration of life and her incredible legacy with you all, and that's no pressure, looking out at this crowd. Anita was the oldest of six children to Joseph and Alice A. Gillis of Glenwood City and later in Richmond. She graduated from New Richmond High School in 1943 and St. Mary's School of Nursing as a registered nurse in 1947. She was a devoted wife, a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, which we lovingly called her Gigi. She was a healthcare provider, a registered nurse, a farmer, a community influencer, a sister, an aunt, a cousin, a friend, a neighbor, but most importantly, she was a child of God. She was married to John Francis Wells for 26 and a half years. And she went home to be with the Lord, my grandfather, her son Tim, her great-grandson Cyber, and all her ancestors 45 and a half years later. Grandma was passionate about the Lord, raising her family, nursing, gardening, baking, hospitality, traveling the world, quilting, sewing, serving others, and leading by example. Oh, and I can't forget the Dairy Queen Buster Bar. What else can I say? My grandmother Anita was a widow at age 48 with 4 children at home on the farm, and she always put the needs of her children ahead of her own. She had a strength of will and determination while mourning the passing of her own husband, John, and she made sure that her children's education and their needs came first, always. She was so proud of all her 9 children and their families. And if you ever had an opportunity to visit the Wells farm or Anita's home, you were likely welcomed with a warm greeting, a warm cup of coffee, and invited to stay for supper. After all, she coined the phrase, "What's one more potato?" Grandma was famous for tea rings, cinnamon rolls, Hungarian goulash, cucumber salad, stuffed peppers, apple crisp, giant California burgers on the grill, and her menu would go on and on. Anita was named State of Wisconsin Outstanding Nurse in the year 2000. She received an award of merit from the Wisconsin Association of Homes and Services in 1991. The Resident Council of Christian Community Home nominated her for this award, citing her caring commitment to quality of life for the elderly and her dedication to excellence in the services she provided in affiliation with Christian Community Home. She received the Citizenship Award from the Hudson High School Student Council in 1979. She was a Pax Christi nominee by St. Patrick's Parish Ladies Guild in 1993. Of the many ways one could describe my grandmother, here are just a few. Her wisdom, her captivating stories with incredible recollection of yesteryear. She was an influencer. She was humble, and she would say, "Bully for you," if she needed to cut you back down to size if you were acting in a non-humble way. She was humorous. She was famous for Grandma's rules. Reminds me of a time in the late 80s when my sisters and I were playing baseball with my Uncle Tom and my grandmother on the sand lot. And as she was about to be thrown out at second base, she stopped in between first and second, claiming to be tired, exercising Grandma's rules. To which my older sister Alyssa said, "That's not fair." She had high standards. She held the bar high with the highest of standards, and she would never ask anyone to do something she wasn't willing to do herself. She had 2 things that she'd want to avoid at all costs: the look or the list. Some of you know what I'm talking about. For example, there was a 15-year-old once who somehow started his mother's car with a paperclip and took a joyride around Hudson and ended up on the list shortly thereafter to receive the look. Fortunately for me, I never saw the look because I was hiding behind my sheets while Grandma fumed at the foot of my bed, reminding me of how close I was to dying. Never forget that one. Compassion. For example, on Christmas Eve, the first Christmas Eve after Grandpa had passed away, she was called into work and was a little bit upset that she had to sacrifice her family time for someone else's needs, but nonetheless she answered the call. And later in that evening, as she helped an elderly man get readjusted and comfortable as he had gotten himself into a situation, he grabbed her cheeks and he said, "You're an angel." And at that moment she realized that she was where she was supposed to be, helping someone else's life become better. She was faithful, she was kind, always a place of refuge. She was independent, a family matriarch like no other. Her work ethic was also like no other. She would say, "Get up, it's a work day." And I would say, well, that's pretty much every day in the Wells family. Her generosity was unprecedented, and her ability to make custom quilts for any given holiday at any given time for the people that she loved. And her elegance and beauty shined both inside and outside. She was devoted. She was willing to travel around the United States to visit her family, and even around the world, making it as far as Venezuela and of course Hawaii. She was a diehard Twins and Packers fan. Among certain topics, those were two you didn't mess with Kramer. Reminds me of in 1987 as a kid, we went to a Twins game and waited for a couple hours after, and that was in the middle of their first World Series run. And Grandma was there with us, and the players were coming out of the tunnel with their families. And Bert Blyleven stopped her as he returned back from putting his own children in his vehicle. He promised to come back and sign autographs, and he did. And he complimented Grandma and said, "You have the most well-behaved, well-mannered children I've ever seen." So fast forward to 2011, when my sister Alyssa decided to do a 4-generation trip to Target Field, taking her daughter Natty, herself, my mom, and my grandmother. She wrote Bert Blyleven a letter explaining what had happened in 1987. And after the game started, an usher arrived to their seats and invited them up to the broadcast booth, where they got to sit for 2 innings with Bert and Dick Kramer as they broadcast the game, talking to Grandma, talking to Lizzie and my mom about what the Twins meant in our family history. Sorry if you're not a Twins fan, but I have the mic. It just goes to show that everywhere Grandma went, she was a light, and she lit up the room everywhere she went, including the broadcast booth at Target Field. She was loving, she was determined and steadfast, hospitable and friendly. And I think that there's some words from St. Francis of Assisi that really speak to me when I think about my grandma. And he said it best when he said, "Speak the gospel, and if you must, use words." Grandma said many times in her final weeks how grateful she was for the loving care she received from all her family. My grandmother was grateful that she was able to live out the last months, weeks, and days of her life at Christian Community Home, where she gave so much of her heart and so much of her time as the director of nursing and staff nurse. Grandma's family was able to witness her legacy as a nurse in action by the wonderful, compassionate care she received while she was at Christian Community Home. While we mourn our loss, we certainly rejoice heaven's gain, and we can all rest easy knowing that Grandma has finally heard the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." God bless you all.